Yes.
Especially when the KT players have all really emphasized specifically team fighting in a lot of their interviews afterwards. Perfect gave one, Peter gave one as well, where they specifically talked about this being such a big strength and them wanting to focus on those mid and late game team fights. That is where they're going to have to bring it together. So when you're thinking of team fights and how to construct those, I'm thinking of Trundle and tanks, and we already see a Trundle ban. So KT being on blue side, the priority for Sion just goes through the roof. If there is no Trundle, Sion has just been God.
Certainly has been. So as we get into the first round of picks, the final round of bans here, at least in phase 1, and Champ Select powered by Omen and HyperX, we're looking at the Neeko, a potential first pick angle. Both the Neeko and the Bard were banned against Keria in game 1, and T1 have a choice. Do they want to risk giving this up? The answer is yes, but as you highlighted, the Sion is available in a world without Trundle.
So there is Sion available. I think this is a B1 Neeko. To me, feels like a no-brainer. It was Peter who, for a period of this year, was genuinely the best Neeko in the LCK. Found incredible engages on it, but it's also the Yone this time around open for BDD. Now that is obviously something matchup dependent. Last time they banned it because they played the Taliyah, which can really struggle post 6. We'll see if the Sion to me does feel inevitable as highlighted, but what else is T1 going to pick up here?
And then you have to worry about how effective do you feel like the Rek'Sai counter into Sion is? Because we have seen varying levels of success or failures of players using it. I think that Perfect definitely can use it very effectively and get some early CS lead, get some early turret plates if they do it. So as expected, the Sion go down because of the Trundle ban, and then I'm already thinking of KT, possible Rek'Sai there for Perfect in answer to get his own kind of lane counter.
And Jarvan, to me, really goes up in value once both Poppy and Taliyah are out. Both of those are not available, so that does mean that it's a lot harder to immediately and easily punish this champion.
Definitely the case, but anytime, of course, the Sion is locked in, I'm keeping just in the back of my mind the potential of a swap. Looking at that bot lane 2v2, knowing how effective Sion can be in those swaps at just withstanding pressure, but KT debating how they want to respond to this J4 by a champion who pro players have loved for so long, but a champion that often has struggled to find impact on the world stage. You can see 4 wins, 12 losses.
And you want to get a kill combo with that Vi for your mid laner here for BDD. Are they going to drop BDD's pick, or are they going to drop the top lane answer into Sion here? I guess you could say, Perfect, just play a tank or something, and you don't necessarily have to go the Rek'Sai answer into it, and so they could invest in the other lane.
I do like relying on BDD's champion pool and just making sure Perfect's comfortable. This is one of the champions that he has played. And one thing that T1 does have to be careful about is that already they are looking to go towards a 2-carry composition. And that is something that I do think the Vi, Neeko specifically, can punish really well, because Sion and Jarvan early game actually do bring out a surprising amount of damage. Jarvan is fine going later into the game, but when you have enough dive to guarantee that one of the 2 members will be taken out, you might struggle. That's why I like the Sivir pickup. Sivir is one of those carries that is very hard to lock down. One of the picks that's good into is already alongside him with that Jarvan that can actually reliably lock it down. So I think the Sivir prio here makes a ton of sense.
Of course, securing that Rek'Sai, as you highlighted, does cost at least one champion from BDD with the Yone banned away. And we already have a support pick locked in for Peter. We mentioned it in game 1, and we should say it again. Bot lane 2v2, incredibly important for both these teams. We saw in game 1, KT with bot prio, able to run the map for the first 15 minutes. The question is, can they set that same thing up again?
And there's also the fact that one of the best champions we've seen with Neeko, one of the most impressive, is Corki, where Sivir actually has a good matchup into Corki, which frees up a ban for T1, which most likely, okay, I actually was going to, I thought that they were going to throw all of it on BDD, instead going to take away the Kai'Sa here for Dokkan with Vi, with Rek'Sai, and with Neeko. Makes a ton of sense.
Yeah, it's just too good of a Kai'Sa angle there for KT, the dive, so wanting to deny that one makes a lot of sense. Faker Galio as well gets taken off the board. The protection not going to be there.
The question is, how much emphasis do they want to put on giving full information to Keria before he goes for his counter pick? Obviously, you know what support you're playing against, but a 2v2 a lot more complicated than that. going to opt, it looks like, to give that counter pick to Faker to make sure that he is really set up for success and to use this Lulu to ensure that Keria can do whatever he wants in these fights.
And with the Lulu, you have extra safety for one of the 2 carries that you're going to get, right? It also is a lane that can actually be quite oppressive, particularly when paired with something that shoves well.
Trời ơi, đánh con
Looking kind of at
Ziggy,
the
cảm
options
ơn
remaining for
đấy.
KT, the
Vì
Ezreal
Ziggy.
certainly feels like he can stay at arm's length,
Đừng
gets
có
out of the
EZ,
J4,
trời
kind
ơi,
of threaten
EZ.
pressure quite easily.
Thua
That
rồi
said, I am
đấy.
looking at the T1 lineup waiting for a big
Zig.
source of damage. Sivir
Trời
takes a
ơi.
lot of time to scale up. You have a lot of amazing front-to-back
Nhiều
tools
AB
for
cái
T1,
gì?
but with Azir and Orianna banned away, where does Faker
Đờ
want
ra
to go
mình-
with this
đờ
counter
ra
pick?
mình biết
Yeah,
ở đây
maybe
để
the
nó-
Victor,
để
maybe
lên
the
đầu à?
Mel that he has liked. Mel, maybe save that one actually later for later in Fearless. But some sort of control mage that does output a lot of damage like you're talking about, like the
Mình nghĩ
Victor.
là cho mày thoát
Only
kịp
problem would be then that you would be very vulnerable to the dive that KT are showing.
And this is what I'm wondering about is, what are you going to pick here?
Oh, they
my
steal it
God.
away!
Well.
It actually is stolen. That's crazy to me because I was looking at something that pairs well with Vi, and I think the issue here is that a lot of champions who would want to go with Vi are things that dive as well. Like, think
Well,
about the
but
Akali,
Victor,
for example, because you
Victor
can't really
now.
blind those at the risk of getting counterpicked.
Hai
And
vị
instead,
tướng
BDD says,
gọi là
give me
không
the
ra
Mel,
cái
a
gì
pick
trong
that has
team.
been rising in prio this tournament. And I like Victor when it comes to a 2-carry composition. But you do need to get to your items because the early game for this comp is not looking too hot.
And I think that we have to hope, or at the very least the KT fans have to hope, that BDD's first game on Mel isn't his first ever game, but just his first competitive game, as we did see with Owner and Mundo early on, and now you're against Faker's Sylas. Front page of Reddit, we've watched the play 100 times, it was Medic last year, an incredible World Finals call. Faker stealing away that ultimate from Rakan to make an incredible game-winning play, and let me tell you, there are a lot of incredible ults for him to take once again.
And I'm definitely looking at the Nico ultimate for sure too. If he can find Peter, if he can steal the Nico ultimate, the engage there would be huge.
I do think though, with the Sylas, it really does help you with the early game issue that you otherwise might struggle with. Obviously, Sylas also, once you are able to get on top of the Mel doesn't have the ability like she does against many others to kind of create space with her W. But I do think it makes the composition a little awkward. It patches your early game issue, but I do think now you have a comp.
My work is easy because I use ClickUp. Here's how I get perfect notes from every meeting. I click this toggle to send my AI note taker to my meetings, even if I can't attend. My AI note taker
Position that on one hand wants to play for the Sivir and really try to play that classic front to back, keep safe, absorb the initial dive that comes free, but Sylas kind of does the opposite. So we'll see how T1 is able to navigate that, because I do think they will go for Victor. Like, the first item, Spike, and really feel like that.
And I feel like KT, in the later stages of the draft, actually drafted themselves some versatility here, because they index very heavily into range with both Ezreal and Mel have a very long range. They can try and go for some poke damage early as well, and try and force the shorter range T1 squad to do the engaging on them and look for a possible counter.
As we get into game 2 here, remember to log in to your Riot account on lolesports.com and watch Worlds Live to earn exclusive world emotes, icons, and capsules. But you might not have time. You might want to wait until after whatever is happening here continues to happen, because Keria running for his life. Faker there to body block any potential follow-up damage. Standard comes down. There's enough information to know that KT is backed away, but KT making an aggressive level 1 play to seize control of this early jungle.
And we do see KT again going for a very aggressive invade. These level 1 plays in the early laning phase was something where KT was just straight up better in game number 1. So they're trying to leverage that again. Not really going to lean to anything meaningful this time around. Keria didn't have anything forced. He will be there with the main wave. So unfortunately for KT, no big advantage found, as Perfect doing a little bit of scouting here, but they are on the ward, so I don't think either Faker or Owner is going to fall for anything. And no swaps to come through, and we do have both junglers again pathing from that top side.
And reminder for anyone who didn't keep up with KT, who's just been here for this fever dream of a run to finals, that while everyone has stepped up with this lineup at Worlds, it was the mid-jungle that really brought this team together, that got them across the finish line. And when you look at Cuz and BDD, right, these are guys who have played together for so damn long, and now, anytime KT's backs are against the wall, these are the players that we look at to really make the difference and stand up.
Certainly so. Such a long history playing together, multiple teams, multiple years, and they really do trust each other and have talked about how much it means to them to be here on this stage.
And it's also recently a story of almost, right? As we're going in
Story
again.
of level 2 on the bottom side as well. Docdom and Peter getting aggressive. Ezreal, before that first back where he has to invest money in tier, can be so lethal as long as those Mystic shots are connecting.
Right there. And this time it's Dokdom that actually wins the arm race. Right? He's the one with teleport, and Gumayusi doesn't, because as Ezreal you are given the liberty of doing so because your kit has a built-in escape. It's something that I think T1, even though it wasn't necessarily that flashy, did actually end up using very well. We saw them out macro KT once they got control, really applying a ton of pressure to the lanes. As right now, both junglers pathing towards that bot side, and Guma not having flash available might be looking for something there because both of them very strong early ganks as well.
Definitely true. Cuz continuing to clear out the red buff. And really need to continue to keep our eyes on the bottom lane. The flash, of course, expended. The heal expended, so a potential vulnerable point. Meanwhile, on the top side, Perfect, a lot of sustain, but really hasn't been able to wrest control of the lane in terms of overall priority. Constantly, however, threatening the knockup just to stop Thorin from forcing this wave all the way in.
Yeah, the sustain on Rek'Sai, so nice. And these tank matchups will eventually start to whittle them down and look for the extra pressure there. Meanwhile, speaking of pressure,
Oner wrapping around BDD. False sense of security because his bot lane is moving first, but the jungler already there. Nice initial sidestep, flash backwards onto Faker. The root connects. Good damage from BDD, but he can't quite finish the kill. And the flash expended means advantage to the side of T1.
You'll take that if you're Oner. That means that once you hit 6, that is a Mel without an escape. If you do find your ultimate, BDD will be able to maintain his pressure on this lane, but he does have to pay for it heavily.
And the critical part is that T1, they don't overextend the play because Peter were on the way there, and now they're looking at Guma.
KT getting aggressive, just knocking down Gumayusi, taking first blood as Peter flawlessly turns into the Canyon minion to eat countless tower shots.
We've seen this so many times, and it actually does get old seeing that happen again. Nico turning into the cannon so you can get that massive.
I'm right there with you, Kobe. It does get old.
You can just keep tanking tower shots. This one wasn't too egregious because didn't have to take quite as many, but they pull off that play. And this was, again, Peter and Cuz playing together. They had linked up and they were looking to counter the mid play. Then after the mid play, they just turn their sights, wrap around towards bottom side of the map, and they find the value there.
Now T1 resetting, putting Guma on the top side, knowing that he needs a bit more time. This is one of the downsides of Sivir. We know her to be this wave clear machine. She can take control of mid. She can empower these dive threats, and she can be a late game carry. But early on, if she falls behind, she doesn't do a lot. T1 trying to get some more resources in Gumayusi's pocket, trying to give him time to stack the coal so that he can be relevant in the fights to come.
And KT are off to another good start here, and for them, I imagine coming in, Scores has talked to them too. The early game was great. A lot of the things there went well. We're able to generate a lot of leads across the board. Early dragon stacking plus the grubs, but it was actually following through and not giving T1 any opportunities. We know how much resilience this team has. We've seen them do it again and again and again at Worlds. As a little bit of damage on the door, but he's silent in a 1v2, so he'll be fine. So for KT, that's my test. The objectives early, I trust that they can get, but can they actually keep that pressure up?
And this is one of the advantages of the Sion, right? No real hard CC to interrupt the decimating smash here in that bottom lane. Means Perfect can be more at risk when he steps forward to clear. Luckily for him, however, Gumayusi is behind. There's not a lot of damage threat there. And it's Peter playing with fire, roaming into T1 jungles, giving perfect information to Cuz. Oner might have a false sense of security here, doesn't have information on Cuz. Peter now committing a little bit more. Q over the wall, the ball breaker, immediate route to follow, but Oner going to flash to safety, uses the smite to secure the grubs.
Would you say worth?
I would say definitely worth. I mean, Peter and Cuz, again, we keep on highlighting
No, for Oner, because he got Grom. Yeah, come on, Kobe. You're a jungler.
I'm going to go, yeah, sure, I'll go worth there. For Oner, flash for Gromp. But honestly, highlighting, Peter and Cuz once again, doing the setup work there for the jungler to come over, and we'll see. Can they actually punish?
And actually, yeah, I love this from T1 because last time it was KT that were set up early in River where they were able to generate some big leads. This time the trap is the opposite. Perfect has made his way onto Guma, but just doesn't have the damage yet. Not enough items yet to actually friend this Sivir, but does get the barrier.
Crucially does get that summoner. It is a small advantage, but it could matter in the next few minutes. T1, as you highlighted, though, get the initial setup, get the initial vision down, so know that they're safe here to take the first Drake of the game. KT with a small gold lead, but T1 balancing it out with this Cloud Drake. Cuz on the top side means no contest to come through, and T1 doing a better job of not giving away too much control in this game, too.
Dragon secured in the aftermath, and now you also get your level 6 here for Owner, so we'll see if they can actually apply that pressure to the mid lane. They did burn BDD's flash, but look at it. It's almost back up here, a quarter of the way to go for BDD, and Cuz is doing the work to get him some extra vision around mid lane, try and bridge that extra little timer, the window where you would be vulnerable to HA for ultimate.
Might have also been the reason why KT they really didn't want to commit to that fight, because if Owner just ults onto BDD and Faker gets on top of him, like, what do? There isn't really any counterplay for the Mel, who again likes to play at range, slowly stack up that passive. Ultimate is available for BDD, so that execute might end up being valuable in the fights to come, and there is that stolen Nico. I think by far the best out of all of those, unless you really want to go for a very specific play with like the Vial. But generally, that Nico ult gets so much value. Sylas has many ways to get on top of his opponents. Between his rocket belters, there he goes.
The middle, on to Peter, catches the real target carry there for the follow-up. Flash out from Peter, forced to use the heal as well. And of course, while he's really far away from that ultimate, not having that for the fight when he finally does, that flash is going to be critical.
Yeah, double summoners off of the Nico, off of Peter could be very big. Is going to mean that KT will start up these grubs though, and Peter heals up off those honey fruit.
And Faker doesn't have his ultimate available, so that might be the reason why T1 is a little bit hesitant. And also this time, their skirmishing just isn't quite as strong, right? In the previous game, I think that they had so much power there.
BDD.
Not quite the case here.
Getting aggressive, access to the golden clips is there. Wants to reflect a bit of the damage back onto Faker, but not quite in kill range yet. Crucially though, Faker no flash because of the previous play. Cuz still does have access to that ulti as we hear the farm alarm on the top side. Doran there just in time to clear out the wave.
I like it. You know, we're setting up some of these early fights, or really, I wouldn't call them, for the LCK standard, these are fights.
Yeah, it's fair.
You know,
early fist fights, an absolute bloodbath.
Yes.
1 kill at 9 minutes.
I'm glad you guys are appreciating it with me. That's very nice. But we are seeing
less a war, more of like a telecom skirmish. Telecom scouting mission.
A telecom polite, you know, discussion between each other. Oh, you will take Dragon? You will take Dragon? That's very nice. Thank you very much.
Deal. Honestly, though, I think we might be in for a long stretch of farming for Guma. You know, you talked about it earlier on. The Sivir here does need multiple items to really have that extra pressure, and the team is built around a Sivir Lulu comp here. While there's possibilities elsewhere.
Nice side set from BDD, just barely able to get away. Ballbreaker coming in for Cuz, opts not to flash. The turn back from Owner is solid. Faker now on the way in himself, trying to use the golden clips to keep things going. The Ezreal ulti across the top. BDD grabbing one. Faker will turn it back, but he's under the tower, and it's Cuz to take him down.
And it's the subterfuge from KT. Cuz actually spotted that Owner was there. So BDD says, let's go for the play. He's ready to make sure that Owner and Faker don't get on top of him. And once they do, they're too close to the turret, and it's a big win for KT.
Yeah, nicely done by BDD, flashing under, and then roots Faker under the tower so that they can get the 2-for-1, get the 3 kills here for the Feats of Warfare in the aftermath. And this is even with the beginning of the play is actually quite nice from Owner, because he uses his Unstoppable from Jarvan ultimate to avoid the CC from Cuz as he comes back in. But then Faker into the tower range, and BDD is able to at least root him before he goes down.
And it's BDD starts it up with a 2-man root, and then also is the one that secures it. And for me, nothing tells the story of these two players together more than Cuz like, BDD, I'll flash. It's fine. I'm going to set you up for that kill. I'm going to make sure you get your execute, and I'm going to make sure that we win this play.
And while earlier on we had about 1,000 gold lead for KT, it hadn't resulted in any major item completion, so the game still felt close. But now it's Cuz with the Sundered Sky ahead of schedule, ahead of the next Drake in 1 minute, and that is a massive early game spike.
Cuz, again, I mean, he started last game with a really early spike as well. The Wukong, lots of early money, got to the Trinity Force very early on, and it just came down to the Dragon fights where T1 were able to turn around. This time around, though, since they're running the Sivir, and we do kind of project a longer term for T1's kind of attempts at the turnarounds, this probably should be KT with some really comfortable setups. Look at how deep their vision is on the bottom side of the map, and attempting another dive.
He's low, but reinforcements, I think, will be on the way, and it looks like the wave isn't in a position for them to actually make it happen as perfect. A little scared there, but Doran can't clear the wave in time. But Faker being this low does mean that Prio is there for KT. He's FTP, but they're not letting him.
No mana for Dom, still advancing forward, knowing that he has Peter behind him to cover.
Ngon nhỉ.
Will now retreat.
Có phải đánh đéo đâu,
Starts
toàn
to fade
Faker
top
đánh.
side, the TP coming back from Doran, checking in on the sums. Obviously no flash for BDD, no flash for Cuz. Owner's flash available, could be big in the coming fights. Completed items for both sides, jungle mid.
Oh, this is big though, because Doran at the TP top, he can use his ultimate to join the fight, but Perfect actually finishes a Titanic Hydra, and thanks to the proxy, will be trying to arrive as soon as possible, even without TP available.
No vision control of the pit. Finally a ward is dropped, but it might not matter. Peter with flash available.
Trừ luôn
Cuz off to the side. Ulti from Doran's not going to catch anybody, but it might have zoned KT away enough. Doran likely to give his life here, but the Drake already down in favor of T1. On the hunt, Pop. Perfect tunneling out to safety. T1 got what they came for. They're going to make a hasty retreat. They don't want the 5v5. Content trading that ulti of Doran for the Drake.
We'll see if they're able to get anything out of it, or if that is just going to be it. KT don't expend any major cooldowns. I think BDD and Doctor we're going to have to TP regardless. We'll get Doran's ult, but that's not really enough. The prio will continue, but 2 Drakes early for T1. Definitely a big win.
Yeah, nice setup, and then, as you say, Doran coming down. Good ultimate from him to zone them off, secure it.
Ulti to cancel carry is reset. Doctor, I'm going to push one more wave. Likely has the Trinity Force in base, but just wants to deny a few more resources from Guma, who has done a good job of evening out what was an early game deficit. Has picked up the Essence Reaver, can essentially infinitely wave clear in mid if he's able to access that creep wave.
What do you see Dukdam shoving this wave? Looking for his base. Trinity Force will be ready for the Ezreal. 1 item spikes to come through for every member of KT. Close to for T1 as well. Really only waiting for Doran. Neither support has that yet, as in about a minute, this Herald fight, I think, going to be a big breaking point. And we'll see if T1 needs to fight. I do again want to echo T1. I don't think need to fight this, but knowing them, I think it's fairly likely that they will.
Would be fun to watch for sure. Trinity Force spike for Doctum, definitely very big here, so we expect KT to go set up towards that side of the map fairly quickly here. Only 45 seconds left on the clock, so they're going to transition their extra resources over this way. Doctum and Peter here first control the mid wave, and then wait for Cuz to rotate.
Keeping good pressure, of course. That Trinity Force completed is big. Hard for Guma to step up, even with the shielding that Keria can provide. Luckily for them, at least, Guma has the red buff, a bit of extra sustain. The battle over mid-prio has begun. Remember in game 1, it was Guma on the lethality bars, infinitely pushing mid-waves that made so much of KT trying to advance that lead feel pretty impossible.
This time it's Doctum that can do it into 1v2, right? Being Ezreal, being really hard to punish. I also want to echo, last game it was the Poppy. This time for Keria, on the Lulu, offensively, he doesn't get to have nearly as much agency, but he can kind of fulfill the same role. And Cuz is currently sitting on the biggest individual lead we have in the game. If he goes in too aggressively, and he gets hit by either the Poppy W, he gets ulted on, and gets knocked in the air by a wild growth, he needs to be very careful about how he picks his fights, because again, T1, there's only 2 big carries, but this early on, the damage is still there as BDD.
BDD potentially caught out, layering into CC a little bit off. BDD unstoppable for a brief moment, ready to use the ulti, but Faker has stolen one away. The gold in the clips, but the follow-up is there from Peter. Makes it a 1-for-1. Vault Breaker coming in. Faker just CC'd for an eternity. The Kingslayer healing not available in time as Cuz is on a killing spree.
So T1's idea was to make the quick play before the Rift Herald fight, but KT, they close the trap, they get 2 back for themselves, and the teleport from Doran does signal they want something.
I need to be careful.
Tower going to fall. Likely not enough damage to kill Doran, but at least zoning him away as they set their sights on the objective. Herald already started. Cuz will secure it uncontested.
I did get tricked by Peter being Mel there. I'm like, oh, 11, good amount of... No, they don't have damage. The play still works out, though, very nicely for KT. They get Doran's TP, they're able to get topside turret, and Herald, this time there's no Taliyah in the game. That mid lane turret feels like it's sure to fall. And whereas last time, KT wasn't able to actually break the game, it feels like this time they're closer than they were able to in game 1, as this turnaround and the reinforcements for KT were beautiful.
Again, T1, they want to go after BDD. They want to take down the star player there for KT, but it is the rest of the team that assembles and they get there in time. T1 knew that KT were trying to do vision setup work over by the Rift Herald, so they knew they had to make that play really quickly, but being unable to do so means that not only do they lose the extra kill, but they also lost the objective. So now Rift Herald Eyeball
Tao cứ
because
tưởng nó là
his
con vật lý
inventory
không ấy
will
chứ.
allow KT to really press this lead. That thing basically is going to guarantee you another tower, and they can truly open up this gold lead.
Oner doing what he can with the standard to regain control of vision. And I gotta say, BDD has been really solid on the Mel. The use of the rebuttal to buy time has made what should be an easy kill combo of this Jarvan paired with the Sylas really just take far too long to finish off what should be a very vulnerable control mage.
And when Faker and Oner are trying to attack him and they dive these towers, he's getting roots off on them under tower aggro.
Of course, Cuz is the big beneficiary when it comes to those kills, though. 1.2k individual lead, BDD from the assists, and a bit of a farm advantage, holding on to a decent lead of his own, has opted for a bit of healing reduction, going to make things that much harder for Oner and Faker as the charge comes through.
And last time, this was the point where T1 turned the game. The lead this time is bigger for KT, but I think T1 don't want to let them get this dragon, want to get soul point themselves.
Faker's ulti available, needs to hijack the ulti of Peter. Chip really starting to hurt onto Doran. Catch over the wall onto Cuz, the most fed member. They're immediately going to delete him, and the rest of KT trying to pull the trigger, but they can't quite find the angle. BDD, docked him. They've got the range advantage. Peter waiting to peel for them if necessary. Perfect. Spots them in the darkness. The Tremor Sense showing him what he needs to see, but they've stopped moving or have moved out of range. He can't be certain now. The Q from Doran moving in. Peter still gets the ulti. It's a golden eclipse from BDD. A new dawn for KT in game 2, but T1 are unconcerned. Guma, Keria, standing, the bot lane. Will it be enough? BDD trying to buy her back, but it's Gumayusi fearlessly advancing, ricocheting, tearing through the dreams of KT.
Guma with the moves at the end. He gets the extra kills and cleans up for T1.
And Keria, I think he got the timing there on the polymorph perfectly as Faker with a blind chain. The follow-up is immediate, but the most important members on KT are still alive.
That play.
As we will take a look here as they attempt to turn onto Peter. And even though it doesn't quite work out, I think Doran was looking for the flash ult. Peter gets the ult off, which allows BDD to dish out damage. But watch here, Oner's low. And Perfect can't use his ult. If he stays alive, if he's able to get the execute, maybe that could have been enough.
So close, and then the Glitter Lance slows Doctum.
Flash.
Another
So
fight
that Guma's
breaking out
able
in the
to follow.
meantime. Guma potentially caught out Cuz, looking for a bit of revenge. Oner doesn't quite make it over the wall at the flag and drag, but the ball breaker taking him to safety, and Gumayusi does not care. Look at that record at the bottom of your screen. He might have faltered in the early game. He might have been behind in game 1 and game 2, but this man is a team-fighting demon. The dragon starting to fall. Turn back from Faker as he catches out Doctom. Cuz there to try and peel, but it is too late. Oner moving in. A cataclysm across the top side. Perfectly canceled. BDD flashing over the wall. Gumayusi still living. Perfect on the chase. Peter wants to fire back. Cuz running for the hills. 2 down on the side of T1. But Guma might be enough. Perfect gets the bite. Tears right through him, and now it's Oner picked off as well. KT fighting for their lives. BDD still standing. Crucially, the extra damage. Doran set to fall. A double kill for the KT mid laner.
And BDD stands supreme on the Mel. Stays alive through it all. And that is going to be the Otacon.
BDD said in the trailer that he was inspired to become a mid laner by Faker's play, and he was inspired to pick Mel in this game by Faker, and he's dominating on the Mel. Clutches it back up, and it's after a huge play from Faker, but BDD is able to use the ultimate to snipe him at the end.
And it's an overplay here. T1 try the force the hand. They waited it in game 1, but they're not actually able to get on top of BDD. Flashes over the pit, and then Peter ensures that Perfect can get on top of Guma, and all the while BDD just stacking up the passive, getting the damage down, and this is a really crucial teamfight win here for KT.
The funniest part to me is that while BDD was chasing down the last of those kills, Cuz was actually just doing blue buff.
He was almost dead.
He was like, you guys got this. He's going to steal away the blue buff.
You got it, buddy.
Yep. They also grab the dragon in the aftermath. So KT retaking this team fight really is meaningful. They put a stop to the T1 dragon stacking.
And you can see how team fights go wrong for T1. Even though Gumayushi's been allowed to live for so long in these fights, if Doran and Oner don't quite have the damage to finish these kills, it's really hard for Guma to get in position to follow up, to chase down here. He has so many members of this team to work through, and T1, despite the deficit, have been fighting very well, but KT clearly upping their game in this draft and in this performance in Game 2.
And that's one of the issues that we did see with the Sylas, right? Because you have this hyper carry in Gumayusi, who has the backup of the Lulu as well. But Faker, he's very cooldown gated, and he has been falling behind thus far, has been going for a lot of plays. And as we all know, Faker ain't no coward. He's going to keep going for those plays. But he does need to line up with the rest of his team, and I think that his role, particularly as we get deeper into the game, needs to be one of a little bit more restrained, because the damage from Doran and Owner is going to become less and less relevant as the game goes on.
Gumayusi, the hope for T1 to carry a lot of the DPS for later on. I still think some of these looks from Faker have been good looks as far as the initial pick, but the counterplay from KT has been so good, especially in that last one, grabbing the extra kills. And now you're looking at BDD over a 2,000 individual gold lead and trying to create his death cap right now. As soon as BDD gets death cap, this Mel is already obliterating people. It is just going to delete members of T1.
Already has that XP advantage too. And this is something that it's just going to make the game so difficult for T1 because, yes, diving under Mel is good, but if you make one mistake, we've seen he's already able to turn these fights with his damage, and that number's only going to be going up.
We're also seeing the lack of mid lane turret actually being really rough for T1, right? You need to play so much safer, especially because your support is Lulu. You don't really have the ability to just go and face check, really easily regain control. You always need a bodyguard. You need someone to make sure. And this is for me also a great opportunity to really shout out Perfect, because I think his we've seen, as we highlighted coming in, Rek'Sai has been both great and very mediocre. I don't think thus far he has been able to find the backline accesses. Cousin Faker wants teammates going to take a glance at one another. Nothing's going to happen now. But the Otacon already taken by KT. Their next site's going to be on either the Baron in a minute or that Dragon. Something great for them. About 2 minutes.
Neither side at Soul Point quite yet, although T1 certainly would love to be set up for it, especially with that Sivir just continuing to scale. How durable those team members can become, but Baron, more important, 43 seconds, Perfect trying to push in this wave. A lot of damage to finish that tower up, and now makes it pretty easy. It's just such a goofy cheat. You want a fist fight, he just tunnels away.
I just hope that jungle Rek'Sai doesn't get nerfs for all this top lane Rek'Sai.
This is what you have to expect.
That was from the pros.
Collateral damage,
Just be happy that she's played, okay? Having a great time, tunneling away, getting the turrets.
That's how Kobe felt about Volibear. And look what they did to Volibear. It got nerfed.
You want to talk about it?
I do not. What I want to talk about is what you guys brought up earlier, and it is the supporting cast for BDD on this team. Because it is so heartwarming. Hearing the interviews from all the KT members talking about how they want to perform well for BDD so that he can shine the brightest. Peter especially talking about he really wants it for BDD because BDD deserves it. And so we've seen a lot of the Nico play, him still just getting off Nico ultimate as he's about to die, trying to get these setup plays. Those double roots between him and BDD have been very critical. Now though, Doran is looking at Doctom.
Doctom, unaware of the Scion, but knows that he has relative safety. He has to be careful about walking forward towards that brush. And Doran perfectly placed and baited. Doctom far too confident.
Doran lying in wait makes Scion look like an assassin here. Walks into the charged up Q. And that is the perfect play.
Such a good sell there as well, but KT, they're turning the tables on them.
Quiet.
Start the sneak.
Quiet.
Oh, no. I think they're safe. There you go. They're aware.
Now they spot it, but how quickly are they taking it? It's a Mel with a death cap.
We don't know. Look at where Owner is.
Now ready to turn back. But still, Cuz continues to hit the target. BDD ready to clear the wave. Doran not afraid to walk up. He knows they don't really have the damage to finish the kill.
Doran smells it.
Cuz 9K, but he is determined to take this objective. The blast shield keeping him relatively healthy. BDD poking off to the side. Gumayusi for now uncontested. Rebuttal already used. 4 seconds till Doctom is up and available. And he has the TP.
I actually love this stall from KT. They're able to deny the soul point.
Pulling away T1 from that dragon for now. Doran is going to go back for his recall. He was the one with the watchful eye staring at them at the Baron. KT, though, as you say, they're going to teleport right down to that dragon and start it themselves.
And I think it makes sense that T1 gives it up, because looking at the spikes, Guma didn't have his IE, just now finishes it, and BDD did have his death cap. So fighting just before, really your main hyper carry has that crucial throwdown break point. Definitely not the right call, but it's really the confidence of KT to say, hey, you killed Duckdom, that's fine, we're going to put some pressures. He finishes the Serpent's Fang, which against Lulu and Sion, going to get a ton of value.
And now we get to see the critical point. Can the Sivir with 3 items outplay this KT, dive plus Mel damage? Because Mel has very long range. Sivir, while she does do well in team fights later on and can ricochet and make use of Lulu very well, sometimes it is hard to play around longer range champions like Mel poke damage and Ezreal poke damage here. So have to be cognizant both of the engages from the Neeko as well as dodging a lot of skill shots.
And again, we're looking at Guma to be the difference. Dogdom has really been kind of silenced by the attention that T1 have paid to him, by his own misstep in the mid lane. At 3 items, matching Sivir isn't really where you want to be on the Ezreal. Has gone for the Serpent's Fang, but in the face of crit itemization, it's going to be so hard to match the damage that Sivir is bringing to the table.
Everyone holding their breath for the next team fight to see if KT can turn this gold lead into a team fight victory for one of these critical objectives. Baron is on the map. Scuttle Crabs have transformed. They can pop this and then immediately clear out the rest of the vision and then try and draw T1 over.
I love it when, we talk about these players, like, oh, man, they're doing so, and then you look at the damage charts, and like, yeah, that tracks. This to me is a breaking point for the world's title. If KT are unable to actually take this game, you're going down 0-2 against the most successful org of all time. That's perfect. Got it, but this work size, so should be okay for now. But for KT, they haven't been able to really break the game. This gold lead has, I think it was the highest, like maybe 4.5K. It's kind of been stymied, and it will all just come down to do you kill Kuma, yes or no? And with both sums up, with a Sion, with a maybe defensive ult from Faker, if he can get that Neeko ult, and Keria, it's going to be easier said than done.
Absolutely. Game 1, it felt like 2 to 3K gold lead. This game, 4.5, as you said. If that's not enough to close, you start to wonder if any lead really is. T1 have not played flawlessly. Faker and Owner over pushing a bit. It's what's given BDD this massive lead on top of, being able to play those side lanes so well. But now level 16 for BDD. He has the tools, he has the damage to carry these fights, but can all of KT execute together? Because T1 thus far in the series have just been playing the team fights better.
It all comes down to this. The final series of the year for League of Legends. Can KT make their stand? They've got vision on Baron. Currently, I believe we're just awaiting the Guardian Angel completions. It should be very similar for both Owner as well as Cuz, but it's just such a huge breakpoint for junglers, both of them being the heavy engage. So then we'll get to see at the next Dragon the confrontation here, or if someone is able to maneuver some vision around the Baron. He's got a lot of tunnels available to him.
Nothing gonna happen for now. And maybe both teams don't want to run the risk of just starting Baron, right? With the amount of damage that's available on either side. KT though, definitely going to play for vision here and their damage. If BDD is there with the W from Cuz, definitely can do a lot of denting to that Baron.
TP up towards the mid lane, coming in from Doran. T1 seemingly ready and willing to force the fight here. They have bot push in their favor. They know Perfect must respond, so they have a brief window of opportunity to take control of the pit.
Interesting breakpoint too, because Cuz finished this Guardian Angel, but Owner did not. So they have 1 extra life here for KT for the moment. Doesn't look like T1 are gonna give them much just yet.
And because of the lack of soul point, both teams can actually just go for Baron if the other one over-invests onto a Camtech Soul. I do think that this is one of those games where particularly T1 will get a crazy amount of value out of it. Both the shielding and the amount of health that's available, the healing as Cuz walks in. We'll just steal away that buff.
Takes the blue buff. Bot wave pushed in favor of KT. Top wave pushed in favor of T1. Dogdom using the Ezreal ulti to try to get control of the wave, but the angle's a little bit off. Shouldn't matter too much. Mystic Shot still giving him the range advantage over Guma. Area healing up. He does get sniped by it. Well, Chronicler. Of course, and this is the point of the game where, as much as I would love to tell you that the center of your screen matters, this is really just about the mini-map. It's about the pushing waves. It's about who can find these little advantages. Good news for KT, getting that TP out of Doran, holding on to Perfect's TP for themselves, but they need to get more if they want to be favored in this fight.
GA's done. The third item for Faker also has a stopwatch. BDD, not a full completion quite yet, as there is perfect vision set up and the waves are pushed. So KT should be feeling good about setting up this dragon.
Ooh, the Lord Doms just got completed by Guma as well. Big power boost here. 4-item Sivir.
Sneaking it. Oh, they're calling the bluff. They know.
Full committing. T1 now turning to Baron. They don't want to risk the contest here. Owner starting the objective. As you get into the fight, keep your eyes on the key carries, Guma and BDD. If either one falls, their team very likely to win the fight. Interrupt there. The Baron not very quick. Chemtech Drake down. Soul point there. Might just come down to the 50 because on the way, T1 tried to make the counterplay, but walk away empty-handed.
The poke damage is really good from KT. The double range advantage we talk about with Ezreal, with the Mel here, finding a lot of success.
The Serpent's Fang as well. And KT just called their bluff. They're like, normal teams, they see T1 start Baron, like, okay, we have to, because you know they'll commit. But KT, cognizant of the amount of damage that T1 has, and it's simply not enough, as the sole point of this Chemtech Soul now is secured for KT.
And really double value out of that, because not only do they call T1's bluff, Perfect also able to get some pressure down on the opposite side of the map. And this is the map play that we saw from KT in the early game of Game 1, but was sorely lacking in the later stages. That said, T1 constantly on the hunt, waiting, looking for these angles. If KT make one tiny mistake, they're looking to pounce.
T1 now looking to pounce. Doctum in the river, but he is Ezreal.
Doctum, pass over the wall. Peter looking to make a play. Lockdown onto Faker, looking to turn it back. Root is connected as well. Faker's been caught, buys a brief moment with the Seekers. The rest of T1 retreating. Perfect buying a bit of space, and the tunnel over the wall. It's a heist. He buys the time to take Faker down. Doran with a decimating smash. Peter on the chase. They'll only connect onto one, but it's enough to start the fight in their favor. Gumayusi untouched, but he's also not able to do any damage, because keeping it going, KT pushing into the jungle of T1, zoning them away from the Baron as they set their sights on that Red Bull Baron power play.
They win the critical fight. They find Faker. They get the advantage. And Perfect is able to escape. Wait a second.
BDD flash. Doran forced to flash back over the wall. Sidestep on the decimating smash. Peter there to cover. Guma can't push for anything else. Doran getting chunked out. That's the ulti to seal it. BDD going godlike. Guma alone in the mid lane. Objective slowly falling. Owner zoned off. Perfect there with the knock-up. Needs to lock it down. Owner's not going to have a chance. KT, it takes some time, but they take down the Baron.
In the last game, KT went for a couple of team fights. They didn't go their way, and they didn't get to play the video game. This time, it's restraint. They're waiting patiently, find the opportunity that they needed, as it is the catch onto Faker that sets it all up.
Exactly, the root into Vi combination gets his Zhonya's early, and then here, Perfect at the back. This is one of the best changes they made to Rek'Sai. After using your ult, your W just goes on a 1 second cooldown, so you can then use Tunnel to escape. It adds so much more survivability to the champion. Being able to escape, and on the world stage, they show it. Then the rest of KT, after they took down Faker, they could push through for the chase.
I love as well there, because maybe I think the rest of T1 could have gone for a play to try and save Faker if it wasn't for Peter also holding the angle there. You can't just walk past the Nico, because Peter held his ult, and now the Red Bull Baron power play for KT, 8k, 9k gold lead here, 35 minutes in.
Guma incredibly far ahead, 4 items, has a bit of lifesteal, can clear the waves, but the range, the threat that KT can bring with the Ezreal, with Mel from BDD, 11, 3, and 3, 3,000 individual gold lead. His first competitive game looking damn good. Faker going golden. The second the chains miss, he doesn't want to push for anything else. Ball break over the wall from Kuz, ready to go, but he's not going to overextend because the mid lane's already falling. KT taking their sweet time with this one, knowing that T1 have one shot to turn this back in their favor.
It's just Guma. He's just a Sivir trying his best, but KT doesn't give him the opportunity to do any damage.
Perfect continuing to push, has access to the tunnel to escape. He's just been a thorn in the side of this T1 lineup. So many Rek'Sais haven't been able to find this level of performance, but Perfect has been a nightmare for T1 to manage. Waiting now off on the side. Takes out the control ward. A single empowered cannon minion pushing as another wave stands behind KT, ready to keep the siege going.
The siege is unrelenting from KT. The Baron buff still buffing up the cannon. The poke damage still coming through.
Owner faking the engage, throws down the flag, misses with the Q to ensure that he doesn't go too far forward. KT don't quite break open that bot lane inhibitor.
Looks like instead they're going to base. They still have perfect timing here on the Baron. That sets up for the Chemtech Soul. That's what they're going to play towards. Mid lane inhibitor, not the best one. Faker might actually get his death cap, which would be a colossal spike for him to get. I just don't know if they're going to have an opportunity to actually contest, as, again, Perfect to me has been playing on the edge of these engages so nicely this entire game.
And the other thing to remember is that Faker had taken away Peter's ultimate in the previous fight. Now, of course, has access to the cease and desist. Now wants to make the play onto Perfect. Perfect able to get the Blast Cone out, that Mega Blast Cone keeping him healthy. KT standing strong, poking T1 as they walk into this choke point. BDD waiting for some of those major cooldowns to be used before he takes a step forward. Mega Blast Cone getting 2 members of T1 over the wall. KT retreating back down to the bottom lane as Cuz starts the objective. Flag there, spots the objective play. Faker on the flank. Perfect not going to give him the angle. KT starting to retreat. Starting to get forced backwards. Doran to kick things off. Peter to look for the interrupt. Faker using an ulti of his own to be stolen away. BDD taking out of the fight. But down goes Guma. Cuz making it work, but PD's owned away by Keria. And all of KT now collapsing on the T1 support. At the end of the day, it is only Owner, and he cannot stop the Soul.
KT get the Soul, and they want the Nexus too!
Perfect continues to push down. They've learned, they've adapted, they've stayed strong in the face of the game 1 loss. KT firing back against T1, but do they have the power to end the game? Another TP, Doctum on the way. Doran giving everything to clear the waves. Owner and Keria here. Surely the Ezreal is enough, but the creeps are falling back. Doran remains standing. T1 are not out of it yet. Doctum needs more, and he cannot get it.
Guma's up in 10 seconds. The reinforcements from T1 will arrive.
The T1 will cling on to this game. No Baron up minions means that KT, even with the damage dealers dead, does not get the opportunity to actually end. And T1 battered, but they'll get one more shot to try and deny KT a chance to equalize the series.
The roller coaster keeps going up. So look at BDD trying to kite Owner and Doran on the bottom side. Meanwhile, Peter had the massive engage, which allowed Cuz and Perfect to go kill off the Sivir.
And with Sivir taken out of the fight, really the only one is Faker, and he was caught by that counter engage. And with even BDD going down, doesn't matter if you don't have your own damage dealers. As in about a minute, the Baron will come up, 2 inhibs are down, and KT looking to equalize the series here as Doctum hits full items.
Full build there, full build for Guma, now has the lifesteal, 100% crit chance. If he has the space to work, he can do the necessary damage. Death Cap's still a little bit of a ways away for Faker. Likely he recalls and finishes it here, but in the previous fight, did have the Pot Blossom, but couldn't find that big angle, couldn't find that big moment to shift the fight in the favor of T1.
And the timer is great for KT because it's the bot lane inhib that is still down for another 3.5 minutes. Mid lane not that valuable, especially against the Sivir, but that bot lane needs to be answered or it can just straight up end the game.
Patience, the name of the game for KT. They don't need to take any risks. We've seen the players, they've gotten over-eager in game 1. They've made some of those fumbles. Doctum getting caught in the mid lane just earlier this game. But the push is in their favor. The map is in their favor. They don't need to risk anything. But still, they'll take their time walking into the jungle. This time around, Doran won't be able to find the blind decimating smash, but the ulti to kick things off, he connects onto the wall. Perfect waiting on the back line. Doctum untouched, BDD untouched. Doran straying way too far forward in a moment of miscommunication. Down goes the top laner of T1. KT start the Baron.
That faceplant means Baron, boys.
It was always going to be a Hail Mary from T1 if they wanted to get back in this game, but that one does not hit the mark. That's Baron, the second one for KT.
When we talk about T1 hitting a wall, I didn't expect it to be so literal. KT now push on the top side.
Got him good there.
18 out of 20 for that one.
Perfect score, some would say. Perfect himself, of course, has the Randuin's available, or doesn't have it available, but has the slow. The crit damage reduction makes him such a nightmare for Guma to deal with, even with the armor penetration from the Lord Dominik's. KT again in this position where they keep that long-range siege going. BDD not showing on vision yet. The last inhib tower falling down, inhibitors following after. T1, a last desperate hold here in game 2. If they can turn it back, it takes them to match point, but KT set to even up the series in the 2025 World Finals. Doran isolating Cuz. Peter going forward, finds 3 with the knockup. Perfect there to follow. The finger turns it right back and knocks down Peter. Dr. BDD still standing. He's shooting through everybody. The Sivir finally allowed to take over the fight. But they managed to take him. Faker still alive in the scrappy fight. The extra healing is making all the difference. Dom doesn't quite have the damage that he needs. KT holding on for dear life. Dom able to find the kill. Perfect. Cuz Dom falls. A final hold for T1. It almost turns in their favor. But Perfect is going to end the game. Guma dies, and so does T1. KT even up the series.
And I can't believe I'm saying this, but Perfect, reliable as all hell in this game, doesn't go down. Deals the damage, and with the alpaca thumbs up, brings KT to 1-1.
KT resilient on this stage. They bounce back in game number 2. They create such a lead, but it still seems so difficult, you know, brick by brick, piece of gold by piece of gold. KT, they have defeated T1 in the second game to even up the series.
It's incredible, incredible stuff. But before we talk about that game and what's ahead in the series, we saw him in the opening ceremony. Now let's check out the world debut of Zahan. Take a look.
Incredible debut. Zahin just made his mark on the League of Legends universe. And joining me right now is Paul Belleza, executive producer for League of Legends.
What's up?
Welcome.
Thank you.
I feel like it's our yearly catch-up.
Yeah, it's our one-on-one here.
How are you doing?
I'm great.
Yeah.
That match was incredible.
I know.
They're both in it. We're having a series. It's going to be great.
I'm sorry you had to witness what a KT fan is live. Talking about what we've seen so far, the stage looks sick, the finals is sick. What did you think about the opening ceremony?
I thought it was incredible. I mean, like, there was just everything kind of came together, right? And then the music and just the storytelling that we've been building up all year is fucking cool.
All right, Paul, tell me, what was the vision behind the newest champion that we just
So, as you can kind of see, right, this whole team's been building towards sacrifice and this kind of doing the right thing, this kind of moment where you have to be brave. And so that's very much a human moment. I think Zahan and Xin kind of coming together for that is all about this transformation. And we really wanted to create something that was awe-inspiring and just kind of get you in the feels. And we're just humbled to be able to debut that to everybody here.
I love hearing this. One of the big questions, though, whenever a champion is going to be released is the speculations online. Where is it going to be played? What is the goal for this champion? Tell me more about the kid.
So this guy's a top laner. He's a fighter. He's a bruiser. And he's really all about auto-attacking. So the more he's auto-attacking, the more that damage is going to increase, the more he's going to be able to sustain. And that's very much of a Darkin. He's a kind of good guy Darkin. So he's still good, dangerous. And the more he gets up and close to you, the more he has chances to stay alive. He has a revive. So we're really excited about that. I think he's going to be a lot of fun and just bring something new to the space.
When is it dropping live?
PBE tomorrow.
Okay.
And then we're going to have him out on 25-23. 25.23.
Exciting. Now, Paul, thank you for joining me. Before I let you go, do you have any closing thoughts for the fans here in the arena? And also maybe venturing a prediction. 1-1 right now. What do you expect?
I want 5 games.
All right.
I want 5 games. I want to see KT stay hungry, right? Keep it calm, keep it cool, and then do what they got to do. But, you know, if T1 does what they do, we'll be fine with that too. But, you know, it's always nice to see some fresh faces do good work.
Closing thoughts for the fans here who are watching finals?
This has been such an incredible world. I've met so many players here in China, and they're so passionate and lovely, and just like we're all bonded by this League of Legends experience. It's been humbling. I love it.
Paul, it was amazing catching up with you again. Enjoy this Telecom War, and thank you so much. And that's all for us here for now. We will be right back for Game 3 in just a couple minutes. The Telecom War is on. Let's see what happens.
The Dragon starting to fall. Turn back from Faker as he catches out Doc Dom. Cuz there to try and peel, but it is too late. Owner moving in. The Cataclysm across the top side. Perfectly canceled. BDD flashing over the wall. Gumayusi still living. Perfect on the chase. Peter wants to fire back. Cuz running for the hills. 2 down on the side of T1. Maguma might be enough. Perfect gets the bite. Tears right through him, and now it's Owner picked off as well. KT fighting for their lives. BDD still standing. Crucially, the extra damage. Doran set to fall. A double kill for the KT mid laner.
And BDD stands supreme on the mill.
For your lives, the rest of T1 begins to collapse. Faker's gonna fall. And Faker still stands. He has the unkillable demon. Hey, everybody!
Demacia, now and forever.
When I was a player, if I was to like make a misplay, maybe it's my mouse, maybe it's my armrest, something feels wrong. If you were at home, you wouldn't do that.
The Infinite Precision Armrest is part of the larger Secret Lab on Stage standard initiative, aimed to bring your home or training room settings to the tournament stage.
이제 저뿐만 아니라 다른 선수들도 세팅을 더 원활하게 할 것 같고
가장 편안할 때 더 강력한 플레이가 자연스럽게 나옵니다.
Red Bull gives you wings.
I wanna love that's so medicinal. Gets me high just thinking about it. Get even higher when the two of us are in the same room. I want a love that's horticultural, plant magical, roots deeper than the two of us.
KT fight and get one back. 1-1 between T1 and KT in our grand final, meaning we get at least 4 games. I'm so incredibly happy. KT, they had honestly good starts to both games, but I want to take a look at this following HyperX Reflex replay where Peter just gets the 3-man root after he ults.
The patience that was demonstrated by Peter first to hold on to the E to make sure that he could lock down Faker to find that initial pick, but then keep track of this man as we follow up in the ensuing team fight, because he's going to utilize Doran to punish the backline of T1. Doran desperately trying to help his team escape, acting as that front line, and there the root gets the extended range, connects onto 2, which sets up for KT to run T1 down and win the deciding team fight of this game.
Yeah, and I really want to call out, as we take a look at Peter's Pot Blossom step back extension again, also perfect at the beginning of the fight to kind of set it up, ending up zoning off 4 people. I actually thought he very quietly had a pretty strong game on this Rek'Sai.
Quietly, did you see the end of that game?
I did.
If it wasn't for perfect, perhaps we'd be telling a different story, and I think it's so cool that it is Peter and perfect. Of course, we're going to highlight more, right? But these were some of the question marks. They've had an amazing Worlds run. Can they replicate that in the grand final, Emily? So far, yes.
Well, and the biggest thing is we talked after game 1 about where do KT need to step it up. They need to step up their coordination in these team fights. We just saw from that play that we were in how their coordination is working. And I also want to point out KT's early games have been really, really strong, and it begins and ends with Cuz.
I mean, the whole early game, the way in which they're gaining control through making proactive players on the map. The fact that Cuz is punishing everywhere across the board is really exciting to see, and it comes back to those players as well. We're seeing resources being given to Perfect in the top lane. We're seeing those ganks working alongside Peter to make early game action happen. And the fact that these players are stepping up on the biggest stage, there's always the question of nerves in an environment like this, especially playing against a team that's so experienced, that's so familiar with this stage. But again, it just feels like these players are as comfortable as they can be.
They're super comfortable, and I've loved their early game plans too, right? From level 1, you can see how they're trying to play super, super aggressively. I've really loved how they've played around the bot lane, and I also love the way that both Cuz and Peter are working together to set up these early games.
We talked so much about Cuz and BDD coming in to this Worlds Finals side by side, and Vetty, you have a lot of good things to say about this jungler.
Absolutely I do, because you're completely right that the two together are really kind of the foundation of what keeps this engine moving. Cuz provides that early game impact, and then BDD, we saw him at the end of that game running with 12 kills on the Mel, providing the damage that his team needs to win out on these team fights. But especially Cuz, for me, was a big surprise, because we talked about how Oner is this staple, this stalwart for T1. To go up against him and have these type of early game performances very much surprised me.
Absolutely stellar, and I feel for the KT story, right? If you go down here 2-0, reverse sweep is incredibly difficult, but they kept pushing, and I feel like that is one of the hardest things to do, Emily, versus T1 specifically at Worlds, not to mention in the World Finals.
Yeah, exactly. The resiliency of this KT team, not just today, but especially in the Gen G series, has really, really impressed me, especially after watching them kind of biff it domestically sometimes when the pressure was on, right? So I think the big thing that I really love to see out of these 2 games, like Vetty already said, it's Cuz, the way he's setting up these early games, it's the way that Cuz and Peter are working together, and also Peter and Perfect really stepping up in fights.
Now T1 will have their first opportunity on the blue side. That does mean they get a little bit more agency and control when it comes to deciding the draft itself, but I love that KT has already taken away the Neeko. We talked about how for Carrier,
said this was going to be an absolutely massive pick. And the answer was Desireless, which, for those that didn't watch last year's Worlds, was a crazy pick for Faker. He was the sole decider in that Game 4, so to remove that from the pool as well. I love KT's approach to draft and how they've been handling T1, but now with T1 in the driver's seat, on this blue side, I'm excited to see if KT has a response.
Oh yeah, at least 4 games. Who's gonna get to match point first? Casters, who do you have?
I mean, honestly, it's an incredible question. But I will say this, for T1, I don't ever feel comfortable doubting them, because even though KT won that game, some of the ways that they were able to hold, that they were able to delay, reminds me that this is a team that wins titles for a reason, and it's something that KT are going to have to keep contending with. They've won the early games back-to-back. Will they do it again? I think I like what Vetty said. It's going to come down to draft. It's going to come down to a lot of these key picks.
Yeah, they have been really methodical, and I like what I've seen so far from KT on stage. They were really controlled, and they had to be for so long in that previous game. You know, standing the test of time there against a team like T1 and being able to finish off that game was critical.
And I'm coming into the series, there were a couple of questions for me. One was, will Peter and Perfect be able to maintain their level? I think we can confidently say after the last game, yes, they very much can. And secondly, for T1, the things that have made this team as dominant as Worlds are still there. I think many of us, and I'm certain any KT fan, was clutching their heart as that base defense almost felt like it could turn the tide, like it could have been enough for T1 to turn it. But the most consistent theme this series thus far has been the early game dominance from KT, and I think a part of that is due to the laning presence of both Peter and Dokdam, and Oner really, thus far, getting out-jungled by Cuz.
And it's not just a good series from Cuz, it's a good tournament. It is a good long stretch here, I feel like, from him. So I'm excited to see what we get moving forward. There is a little bit as far as the reduction of champions for jungle pool, but he still has some pretty high priority ones. You know, the Trundle here is still a very big piece as far as affecting both jungle and top lane champion choices, and he's been really good on that. Meanwhile, for Oner, you've got some of the specialty picks like the Nocturne as well, and you can get some of these engage picks with the Cover of Darkness with Nocturne and having full send compositions. So very interesting that T1 pick blue side. As we get deeper and deeper into Fearless, usually like games like 4 and 5, teams might start to pick red side because the power picks have dropped out due to Fearless. But still on game number 3, they feel very comfortable with what is up to go blue for the first pick.
Yone remains banned. T1 will ban the Trundle, just as KT did on the blue side. Of course, Bard, not something you want to give to Keria. A lesson a lot of teams have had to learn and sadly relearn. Not one, though, the KT won a second crack at.
Yeah, I feel like we, in the LCK, learned that lesson better soon.
Whoa.
Get taken away, so Cuz getting a lot of respect here.
Orianna first pick potentially on the table.
And looking at Renekton as well, both these top laners.
Làm trận nịt mẹ VDD
not necessarily as a B1, but definitely as a high prio pick. Doesn't have a lot of bad matchup, at least what we've seen thus far. Yunara open and will just get picked straight up.
A champion that obviously we see more often than not banned. A champion that a lot of players don't have a ton of competitive games on because it is so frequently banned, but now the Mundo being brought out for Cuz. Champion that, again, in the right draft against the right compositions, really can just take over. And it's going to make it a lot harder for T1 if they go for too much AP in the composition. But it seems pretty clear to me that T1's lessons from the previous game is, hey, our bot lane needs more powerful options. Yeah, Lulu, a solid champion in the context of the draft, but it's not the Keria champion you want to see. Rakan, a very different story.
Yeah, that's definitely a Keria champion you do want to see right there. That bot lane priority for T1 has resulted in some very, very powerful picks for them. I'm very interested to see where KT go from the super tanky front line, though. You know, Mundo has been such a funny story at this Worlds, and all of the success that champion has had. We'll see about possible counters for jungle later on, and you get Doran with the Renekton that you talk about. This is also a very good takeaway from Perfect.
Well, I was kind of wondering whether they wanted to give Perfect the Ornn, which is one of the counter picks we've seen into Renekton, where obviously early lane, you don't really have a lot to say, but with Grasp, you can actually trade pretty reliably, and you obviously outscale by a pretty insane degree. This is a prio pick for the Corki, so we're really playing for lane dominance. Level 1, obviously, in Ali Alistair lane is going to be very lackluster, but the laning pressure should be good. I also like getting Dokdam something with safety. I think that he has been, out of anyone, the member that's seemingly struggling the most with mirrors thus far, given his performance in tournament prior to finals, where he looked nigh untouchable, versus in the finals thus far, Azriel, you know, a couple of those ults not quite calibrated. So I think Corki is one of those champions where you have a lot of power and you have a lot of safety.
Yeah, and Corki not the most contested AD, but the one that we see the most often in the context of this tournament, and it is a really night and day difference between the great Corkis and the fine Corkis. How you use that first Trinity Force power spike can really define the game. And as we enter the second ban phase, we see the Lilia taken away from Owner. Obviously a champion who can really just kind of dance around the Mundo. If you don't hit a cleaver, she's just going to run you down.
It's also that Renekton Lilia combo, we're really now getting towards the, not just the OP picks, we're getting towards
No one is allowed to go to sleep. Everyone has to be awake.
It's getting personal. We're really going into the target bans here.
Yeah, some of the BDD specialties there. Interesting too with the Lilia ban. Are we going to see more since Yone is still up and available? You know, okay, never mind. Yone was one of the first bans, so they can't do any more of those AP options.
I do like the Galio ban here for Faker because that Rakan Galio combo, even if you're Corki, that's going to be hard to play into.
Also the Galio early to mid, right, the semi-global presence, but just the taunt is so much value for protecting an AD carry. It means any potential dive option that KT want to go to, even if the Yone is taken away, really just struggles against a champion like the Galio. Now the Cassio as well. You highlighted the target bans. BDD, you said it, it's getting personal.
And it makes sense as well with Rakan, Renekton already both locked in, even though the mid-jungle 2v2 of Mundo Cassio doesn't necessarily inspire that much confidence. It is something that can be quite devastating if you can get through the early game, which thus far KT have definitely been solid on. As Perfect looking for another tank, and BDD is going to need some serious damage, because I know late game Mundo can be a damage threat, but early on you're going to be really reliant on Dokdam and whatever BDD will end up picking.
Taking his time. Luxury of red side, of course, you might lose out on some of these early prio picks like the Yunara, but you ensure that last pick, counter pick. Faker in the previous game didn't opt for the Victor. This time around, seems like he just wants something safe, something solid in the mid lane. Knows that this is kind of set up to really be the Guma show. When you have a champion like Yunara, even though Guma all-time is 1 and 2 on it, there's a reason it's so high priority. It really can take over games.
Is it BDD Akali? We've seen that as a counter pick into the Victor. The mid to late game gets nigh unplayable in the side lane. Another champ I'd be looking towards by virtue of T1 outside of the Victor being short range is that Anivia, which has been kind of slowly coming up as a pick this tournament.
Yeah, T1 kind of rounding out a lot of damage on their team. And they add even more damage on top of it.
Please.
The Syndra potentially to come through. Now, of course, the Viego. Normally we see it paired with champions with a ton of burst damage, like the Syndra that is being hovered. A champion that can find resets in these fights and really take over against something like an Alistar or a Cassante, obviously. The possession can do a lot of work.
And there's layers to this because Cuz is one of the best Viegos we've had in the LCK. BDD earlier this year had the best Syndra play that I've ever seen. Hit a 4-man scatter, and he will be locking it in here.
BDD Syndra. Now, this is also, you know, a scaling champion nowadays, stacking up the splinters. So Mundo will be scaling, Syndra will be scaling as well. This one is going to be such an impressive clash of team fights.
These two team comps are explosive as well. Both the burst of the Syndra, the Viego resets with that Renekton. It's going to be fireworks.
Absolutely is. T1 and KT 1-1. Match point on the line for both sides, and a lot of new champions being brought into the fold, courtesy of the Fearless Draft. The Viego, I'm looking at the Mundo, the Syndra. So much to keep our eyes on in this game 3.
And there was a lot of content around Owner's first Mundo pick, but remember that the Mundo that Cuz played in this tournament was also his first professional game of it as well. You know, all of the junglers really being forced to pick up that champion. And now we'll get to see it in the grand finals.
For both teams, this is the reset. A best of 3, all that stands in front of you. KT, both early games have taken control. Dominating the map, finding advantages, punishing where T1 have overstepped. But in the mid to late game, it has always felt like T1 might just find the angle to fight it back, regardless of what happened in the early game. Will this finally be the game to buck the trend? Will T1 pull ahead for the first time this series, or KT set to run away with yet another early game?
It feels like this is the draft to do it for T1. There's Renekton, there's Viego, and there is that Rakan. Victor and Yunara might need normally a little bit of time, but this is basically the opposite of last game. That was 2 carries. This time they basically have 4, especially when it comes to those early game fights. And we're going to have to see how KT deal with, I think, having the weaker early game comp.
And one of those carries is Yunara, super power pick on the patch that has not been given over very frequently. Faker on the run from the early move here from KT, though.
Backing away. And as we have a moment to reset, right, a moment to breathe before I'm sure inevitably fist fightings happens, I want to remind people that both of these lineups have made swaps this year. Despite the fact that they are in the World Finals, it has not been smooth sailing for either team. Guma, of course, subbed out. Doran coming in for Zeus this year. And when you look at this lineup for KT, players swapped in and out. Peter multiple times, perfect on the top side, doubted. And it's such a testament to the tenacity of these players that they have come all the way to the World Finals.
Because there was a lot of hype behind Wei coming in after basically doing the Challengers equivalent of Golden Roading. And it, in the end, ends up being Peter that is here at the World Finals. And I already talked about it in game number 2. It has to be said, because this man was the most often talked about weak point on this roster. And thus far, he's had a, frankly, incredible tournament, particularly those isolated deaths. I can't really overstate how big of an improvement that is and how reliable he's become. And KT have clearly been leaning on him.
And even in the game that they lost, you know, his Rumble very good as well. So perfect, really showing up here for KT as the entire team has. Guma pushing up on the Yunara with the Q charge, looking to use that priority.
Heal coming in for Carry, of course. Level 1 for Peter on this Alistar, notoriously very weak. Carry and Guma, also the access to the Gleaming Quill on the Rakan means they'll be able to keep their health relatively topped up. See how long they're able to secure pressure as we take a look at the entire map. Doran push on the top side. Mid lane relatively even. BDD, of course, can do a lot of damage in those short trades. Very easy to land those Dark Spheres when no one has boots, but has to be careful about taking return damage.
Yeah, multiple pushing lanes here for T1 with top side and bottom side. And then Owner has Viego into Mundo at the moment, so definitely looking to see if he can actually make use of these pushing lanes and go try and punish, because probably going to bounce back to the other side and go for the safer Scuttle Crab trade.
Faker's actually been doing a really good job in lane. Is Peter. There's going to be a trade.
Initial knockup, but potentially a bit over-eager from Peter. Again, Alistar passive a decent amount of healing, and they are up a sum, but have to be careful about trading his life like that.
Still have the heal. Owner does look for a dive. We'll see. Ward should spot him out if he actually makes the play, but I think he's just going to go for Crab.
Yep, hug the side, and then the play here from Cuz, where he recalled immediately after his clear, is going to pay off. We'll get back for that Scuttle Crab trade that you're looking for on Mundo. And Owner down here will be known, so they're going to surmise that it's just normal clears for both.
And I want to draw attention to actually the early laning phase for Faker has been really, really solid. Actually able to dodge most of these spheres. BDD with the phase rush. Still able to CS well, but has been pushing for most of it.
And T1, since Owner got bottom side Scuttle Crab, communicating, all right, Doran, go in, get your ward timing here for the respawn of these Krugs, the second clear.
BDD also at some point forced to burn Flash. Didn't catch it at the time, but that is a massive cooldown to lose out on. Again, Syndra, one of the biggest weaknesses of this champion across countless times we've seen her in Pro is that, yeah, it's easy to stay ahead. It's easy to stay at arm's length, but once you lose that Flash, you're incredibly vulnerable to these early ganks.
In the Viego versus Mundo matchup, something we also should talk about is that as Mundo, you always want to try and activate your ult as low as possible, right? That's when you get the most value. But that is something that's very scary. There's obviously also the percentage health damage that Viego does, but just the threat of that execute with the setup that's there from the Rakan, from the Renekton, it means that Cuz is going to have to play very respectful, as we do have both mid laners now TPing back to lane and BDD again. If they can keep track of Owner, should be feeling fine, but otherwise, needs to be very careful.
Yeah, Mundo oftentimes looking for farms, and sometimes that can be hard if you have multiple lanes getting pushed in, but on the reset here from supports, both junglers will meet up with their supports and combining for some mid lane push.
For now in the early game, T1 holding on to a relatively small gold lead. Again, it's mostly Doran on the top side, although some of that can be mitigated as that wave is caught. And Gumayusi with a small lead over Dokdom on top of getting the Cole. Again, Corki, that first item, always quite terrifying. So slowing that down, big for T1. In the context of these early game plays, Owner with the bot lane prio will be starting the Drake.
And this is a big upgrade for T1. They were able to get early Drakes last game, but it's about the lanes, right? Because even though they got those Drakes, it did feel like KT was able to, again, settle these early gold leads. Because maybe doing some poking, but I don't think an actual contest is in the works here.
As long as he has his passive up, he's not too worried. Hex Drake down. BDD waiting in the darkness. Multi-man! The CC layering is there. Doctum on the way in, but he's only level 4. Owner now running for his life. Forced to flash away. Ulti comes out from Faker. He doesn't have a lot of mana left. The Dark Sphere hitting, slowing Faker down. The chase coming through, but they really don't have what they need. Ulti there. His power unleashed. The weak scattered. And first blood for KT.
BDD Syndra finds it, and they do get the first blood. Doctum does take the actual kill and gets the money into the Corki to fund his Trinity Force.
And the Syndra is a BDD classic for a reason. He's been known for mastery on this champion for a very long time. And I'm kind of shocked. I really did not think that KT necessarily had the angle there, but it's the confidence they've shown so far. Now T1 not going to be too bothered by this. We do have Doran immediately trying to apply pressure. They were able to get the Drake as well, so trade for a kill. Not the end of the world.
Yeah. BDD walks him down, waits for his E to come back up, puts all the balls down with the ultimate, and does find the kill. As you say, though, Dragon over to T1 so they can look to keep stacking.
Doctum feels like caught shopping. Panic barrier in that moment.
No, I think he tried to cancel the base cancel with barrier.
But
so
of course,
if you don't take damage, then, but he was a little bit too late.
Well, also the Fury from Renekton eats the shield. So awkward situation for Doctum. Will be down the barrier. Of course, not the most important summoner spell, but does mean he needs to be a bit more careful when he does reset to this top side. Guma and Keria starting to poke, looking to get control of this lane. Recall for Doctum, only getting him that Phage. Not ideal as Faker and BDD continue to trade. The Siphon power from Faker is such a strong early game trading tool, just to make sure that BDD really can't run away with this mid lane.
And Doran
that Crocodile do it?
Going for the proxy here. You want to get your extra 30 seconds? Well, move up and catch the wave before it joins up with the opponents. Is going to mean Cuz has an inside route and access to the alligator, though.
That's a Mundo with red buff. Doran.
Yeah, Syndra's coming.
Doran.
He's just dead.
You only have one piece of CC. Cornered. Yeah, that doesn't work on him. He's going where he pleases. Doran, I think this might not have been what you wanted. BDD on the way, hoping to get this donated. Doran, I think...
Well, he's stalling.
Barnott might be in the game, but this is certainly a magical journey for Doran as...
Trying for the execute. It's all he can do, but not going to happen.
Well...
It's important to choose your timings when you go to proxy.
And also a reminder that no matter what you see in a world final, it's not always going to work in solo queue.
Hey, they got grubs.
I take it back. It was a genius play.
He made the Mundo ult for move speed.
He got free grubs for his team. You know, they're still up in gold. He's buying time. He got his waves.
I'm going to ask you as the LCK expert, are you giving him credit for that as a calculated play? It's up to you. You can decide. We'll go with you.
I mean, normally I feel very confident they can judgment call like that, but Doran has often missed the fight, both in a very positive sense and sometimes in a more questionable sense. So, but we joke, obviously the Mundo getting ahead is not great, but he did actually get a lot for this, right? With the grubs going over, it did feel like it was just unnecessary, because I think the first proxy was great, but the second one...
Perfect.
Oh?
Top laners versus junglers. Who comes out on top? Perfect, not quite able to pull Owner out over the wall. W coming in there from the Yunara. Perfect waiting for a bit more time, Cuz they don't want to fully commit here. Doctum and BDD. Scatter the Weak is good. Will at least be some more poke damage back onto Faker as Peter TPing in bot lane. Headbutts back Guma.
Dodges the Slurple, and we will be seeing Perfect make his way towards the top lane.
Or the slowing circle,
yeah.
I assume? Okay, got it.
Max lives on.
He does.
I don't love it, but, you know. We're an LCK versus LCK match.
Yeah, that's fine. Yeah, it's good.
As, Perfect actually going for the 4-0 first. There is a lot of healing on the enemy team. We'll get a decent amount of value of that.
Yeah, and we just saw Perfect had to respect the possibility of an Owner execute play, you know, down there on the bottom side, trying to get an extra summoner spell or something out of the skirmish, but because of the arrival of Guma, had to respect it and back off from the extra possible damage there. So we remain very calm here. And you can kind of look at it as T1 have paid for each objective with 1 kill worth of gold for their dragon
Con
and for
skin
their
này gọi là
blue
skin
grubs
gì
to
hả
get
Đức?
to this point.
Halfmaker, Q3, but of course Perfect already used his own ulti. Dominus meets ult advantage for the side of Doran. Forces the flash out, happy to have that small advantage. You highlighted it well, Kobe. They did concede 2 kills, but when you have the gold lead in both objectives, I don't think you're too bothered. BDD taking a bit of damage, but it looks like T1 are just here to help Faker get that push out, likely completing a major item.
Ooh, that is the ultimate gone for Faker, so we'll see if BDD is able to catch the wave and then TP his way over, because there's not prio in either lane. It feels like T1 should have some lockdown because it's there, and Mundo
That's a
known
hard
to
steal.
be unbothered.
Continuing to do
That's
decent damage.
damage.
Infernal, good damage as well. Lock up there, but Oner going unstoppable. Peter caught out for a brief moment, immediately going to be forced to ult. That's the Unbreakable with the flash. It doesn't connect. The Q doing absolutely nothing means T1 are able to walk away. A bit of a fumble from Peter, but it doesn't cost KT much yet. Gumayushi standing on the backside, ready to transcend if he needs to. Dokdem going all in to try to stop him from getting his fight. Oner on the way in, looking for the reset to keep the fights going. BDD going over, wants to kill Oner, but Oner lives for an extra second. The stun to turn it back. Oner taking over BDD, but the stun does not connect, and Peter's now running. Cuz locked down in the meantime. Perfect is finally here, but it might not matter. Reset on the ulti from Oner means he gets to back away, but the health bars are low across all of T1 KT. This is an insane gamble. Objective lower and lower, and Cuz gonna take it unstoppable for Perfect. Gets a bit more space. Carrier still living. Dokdem on the way in, and Guma set the fall. Down goes the 80 carry. Dokdem on the way out. The TP in. Fish in a barrel, and it's time for KT to start free firing. T1 thought they had the edge, but in the end, it's KT who take the Drake and the play.
And it's because Mundo! He steals the objective, he chases down the kills, the hero that KT needed.
At first, this play looks dire for KT. They waste a lot. BDD there tries to get the execute, but just doesn't have the damage. Syndra's down, Flash is gone. And then, as Peter goes down, I want you to watch what Dokdem is able to do here, because he keeps hovering over, firing these rockets. The poke just keeps connecting, and then Perfect goes in, and all he needs to do is buy time and buy space for his Corki to Gatling gun his way through T1.
Huge, huge moment there. Corki doing work. Cuz hits the cleaver, flashes in to finish off the kill as well, and BDD comes back in time to claim the kill on Faker himself.
In the back for KT, erupting with joy. It looks like T1 had taken it. The steal started to feel like it was going to balance out, but in the overall extended fight, KT just keep on doubling down. And folks, I'm starting to think the Mundo might be a problem.
Yeah, that's almost 10 times as much damage. That's a little silly.
This is Cuz's second professional Mundo game.
Yeah, on track, looking good. And I gotta say, Oner, he gets the Kraken Slayer. Uh-oh, Gumayushi has not decided to ult. Dokdem might be in trouble here. Knockup does not connect. Peter trying to get a bit more space, and Cuz is on the way in. All of T1 forced to retreat. Maximum dosage popped just to get him in range as BDD then is now collapsing on the side lane. Multiple pieces of CC stun. Initial lockup into Oner is decent. BDD trying to turn back. Sidestep does not work. Oner taking the kill.
One of the hardest parts about these control mage changes is, or trades, is when you try and play the side lanes who are very vulnerable here. And so T1 able to pounce on the flashless Syndra.
Really nice play there from T1. Also no, right? Cuz shows mid ult obviously felt like it wasn't going to do too much. Just wanted to get to the fight as soon as possible. And I think shouldn't line up too poorly when it comes to timing. Level 2 of that almost available. But knowing that there is no one and that BDD doesn't have flash, Doran and Oner can fully commit onto the Syndra and take down BDD.
And it's going to be BDD and Dokdem who have these targets on their back. Cuz very far ahead, incredibly difficult to kill. BDD who's flashless, Dokdem who's flashless, really vulnerable to the potential engage threat that can come out from Oner or Keria if T1 can find these angles. For now, a battle of vision. We're looking ahead to the next objective. 20 seconds till that Rift Herald spawns. Both teams gold, nearly neck and neck, but a completed item for Faker is going to make a big difference.
T1, if they can get backline access with Oner, Keria, or Doran, the fight is going to be really hard to play out for KT. BDD's position is going to be paramount in these fights. As in the last fight, he flashed forward, didn't find the kill, and it was the rest of the team that kind of bailed him out. Then got picked there as Cuz walks forward with no fear.
Yeah, he has to let his front line do the work that they are built to do. Peter, Cuz, and Perfect. See if they can actually bring it together. The teleport is ready for Perfect as well, and he is now proxying Doran, but he knows that there's nobody else that's going to come and gank him.
There's no Mundo on the enemy team. Scryer's Bloom used as well just to confirm that fact. Pressure in the mid lane in favor of KT means that they're going to get first setup on the Herald. Now there is still vision here from T1 if they do opt to contest.
Oh, there's the TP, there's the flank!
TP from behind, flashing forward, Carry's gonna find the knock on the Doctor, but Peter beautifully stopping the initial engage. Doran from behind, though, more than enough to knock down that 80 carry. KT running.
Huge TP flank, what? It turns into more!
Peter, flash out, reset from Oner, unstoppable for a moment. Oner setting up for the angle, but he's not going to overcommit. Reset on the ulti, taking him out as T1 start the objective.
And a big mistake there from the KT support. Dokdom getting caught, that's just a good play. Nice flank there from T1, but then Peter stepping forward and cousin BDD trying to look for a kill on the opposite end. But with any of these Viego compositions, if you get the first kill, they just feel so good as Keria sets up the play here, and Dokdom has nowhere to go.
And man, that deep ward value that allows Doran to teleport in for the flank, incredible. And Peter, that cow is in the wrong area.
Definitely was. You could see how he had a bit of hope, a glimmer of hope. He peeled 2 people, but when the third comes in, when it's Doran on that flank to seal the deal on the kill, to make sure that they get more out of that play. And gentlemen, Gumayusi, the one who's getting so much of this money, he's the one who's starting to get scary. And unlike the Sivir, this is a champion that I think has the mobility, the tools to really start taking over. You can see he's already getting the confidence to just step right up into Dokdom's face, even in the face of that Trinity Force.
And Dragon is going to be picked up here by KT. Camtech definitely high value, but you do give up the topside turret. This gold lead for T1. Getting larger and larger as Keria not sitting on
Peter,
Smite.
Hex Flash. Pulverize, knocks Keria back over the wall, and here comes Dokdom. Down goes Keria. A little bonus kill on top of the Drake, certainly nice to have.
I don't know what he was thinking. He doesn't have Smite. His team is playing the cross map. Not really a reason to try and fish there.
Doran spotted. Eyes on the scat of the week. QE not going to work. Cleaver certainly hitting like a truck. Doran very likely to just have to concede this tower. So KT get the Drake, they get a kill. The Redemption now used as well, and it's on Doran to instantly delete this wave. It's working out well so far, but can he keep his life? TP's coming in from the side of T1, but it's just Faker and Guma off to the side. They don't have the tools to keep the fight going. KT going to respond. All of T1 now retreating. KT still winning out, still coming out on top, but in the mid lane, it's the Herald that's been used. T1 going to try to transition into breaking down the mid lane tier 1, and it's yet another TP in the sequence of play. BDD wants to deny it. Scatter to clear out the rest of the wave. It'll be a chunk of damage, but the tier 1 will not drop.
Nicely done by KT to parlay that pick into an extra kill. They've got Cuz, they've got Mundo. He can tank up that tower. They go for the dive. They make the play very nicely and very quickly.
And we do see the gold lead has now evaporated. Basically reduced to nothing. Was 2K just a little bit ago, and I don't want to see a Mundo and Cassante with Camtech Soul. That's too much, man.
That truly will be too tanky to take down. Honestly though, Keria, like you were talking about, sniffing around the dragon, and KT actually turned that pick onto him into a lot of value here. A nice little bit of ballooning of the gold. See if they can actually push it forward. Though Faker in the side lane, trying to keep the pressure up.
And it's really interesting me looking at scaling in this game, because I think the Yunara, the Victor obviously scale great, but when you look at the raw 5v5 power of particularly that Mundo, that Syndra, that Alistar combo, I think we're seeing T1 really hard force plays because they don't necessarily feel confident. I think this comp can always win fights, right?
Sure.
If you ever get the pick, if you can ever start, particularly this build from Oner, get that early execute, because he has so much damage available. But you're front to back, trying to get past these big, beefy targets down the line might become a problem, especially if they keep stacking dragons.
I mean, definitely could be, right? You're waiting for Guma to get more damage under his belt. You're waiting for Oner and Guma to be able to do work with these double Kraken Slayers, but they're so reliant on these major cooldowns. And if Perfect and Cuz are still standing when those ultimates are gone, that team fight is not going to go in your favor. It's 6 seconds now to the Otacon. We're looking at the bottom side of the map. The push in bot lane for now is in favor of KT. T1 holding on, doing well. 2 items on their carry. Guma holding on to a small lead despite the catastrophic earlier fight. It's KT looking to potentially start the major objective.
Keria, to me, has to be the difference maker. He's the one that is the initiation tool. This time there is no flank ward, so Doran can't quite find an angle as easily as he did in the last one. So Keria has to do a lot of heavy lifting. Has the sums available, but so do the carries of KT.
Look at the lane allocation here, because BDD, no teleport up in top wave, was actually catching it. So T1 trying to take advantage of that information, knowing it's going to take BDD a while to walk to this area. Owner, though, is taking a significant amount of damage from the Otacon as well as getting credit from it here. So KT feel like they are fine.
KT will have to respect Doran. You highlighted it well. Perfect needs a bit more time for his TP to come back off cooldown. So KT might just try to draw this out, just try to delay T1 a bit, threaten the objective to give themselves the time they need. And I think the good news for KT is Peter, Cuz, these frontliners really hard to catch out. The passive from Mundo makes it so impossible for T1 to land a single piece of CC. And the Unbreakable from Peter also means that even if they see one of these isolated members, it might not be the right choice to go in. As Perfect and Doran continue to fistfight. Perfect, of course, doesn't have TP and wants to make sure that Doran can't get out of here. Going along middle, Pathmaker hitting the Q3 does not connect, crucially. So Doran will walk away, but he walks away ultless.
He actually got the W there on the Renekton Ruthless Predator, I'm pretty sure. So didn't get stunned. Wins that trade. Henley also presses tab most likely. It's like, I have a Thornmail and a Jack shows. Good luck, buddy. Starrick's now down for Doran. That is a big cooldown. That will give this Renekton a lot of power, but not having the ultimate, that dominance available, might prove for T1 to not be too big of a hindrance. We'll have to see as Keria, again, trying to set up some vision here.
Keria has made countless plays to bring T1 to this point. Laconic champion with so much agency. But again, it's hard in the face of a Mundo, a champion who gets to ignore that first piece of CC, with so much healing. KT zoning away T1 while BDD pushes the wave.
Critical team fight here. Everybody on 2 items, basically. Looking
Flashes
for the
available.
setup.
Now T1 continue to poke their head in, but they really don't have control of the waves. They're waiting for Guma to push out mid lane, but they really need to respect the engaged threat range of BDD. The Dark Sphere Scatter the Weak combo can be devastating. Gumayusi without a cleanse effect to his name.
The rewards for this team fight are so huge because Otacon and the Dragon both on this side.
Faker continuing to poke.
If you win this fight, you might not just get Dragon, you might get Otacon as well. We'll see, T1 might give up the Drake and then play for the objective instead. Perfect.
Owner lurking in the darkness. Perfect unstoppable for a brief moment. T1 happy to have the poke, chipping away at that health bar.
Oh, they're pincering them.
KT losing control of that Tri-Brush is big. Scatter going wide, also massive. It's a huge cooldown at this point in the game. Perfect over the wall with the Blast Cone. Knocks back Guma. Redemption going down. Cuz holding on to the maximum dosage as long as he can, but it's Faker off to the side. Not too isolated. 5K on the Drake. Getting lower. Eyes on Peter. The Alistair to make the play as Faker tries to zone away. KT, it's Peter in the clutch. Scatter to fall, but the fall of damage is not there. Exhausted is Faker. And Keria tries to turn it back, but he's all by his lonesome. Doran cannot get into the back line. KT managed to find the initial kill. It's Perfect starts to pop off. Guma missing completely. They get the Drake, but it might cost T1 everything.
He flashes into the wall, and that might be the Otacon going over to KT.
Cuz continuing to go where he damn well pleases. T1 forced back. The tier 1 tower starting to fall. Otacon already getting started by the remaining members of T1. Peter waiting as well.
A critical team fight for KT. They don't care about losing that Dragon because they get the gold and they get the Otacon in the aftermath. I think that was critical that T1 made split calls here. Look, they don't have Viego damage with their dive. So Owner finishes the Dragon, but look at Keria. He goes with Doran. So Keria and Doran dive the backline, both Doctum and BDD, but they didn't have their burst damage there with them.
As we see Score and the coaching staff, I think they felt necessitated because Faker got engaged on. So you have to pull the trigger. Doran tries to salvage the play. I think in the moment that's the right call, but without Guma or Owner, you just don't have the damage to kill that Corki.
And Perfect comes up huge once again on the Cassante, and he even survives the play.
Feels, again, like a breakout performance. No doubt. The highest level we've ever seen him at. And the big thing is here, by winning that Otacon, you get more XP, you get those flowers, which is so crucial for this Syndra, who's crossed the 100 mark threshold on those splinters, getting closer to 120. You get some every time you level up, so that level advantage for BDD just pays double.
For T1 though, Look at the cooldowns that you got. I'm looking at Dokdam's flash. Any fight that T1 can start with the amount of burst that they have, if they can single out any target that isn't perfect, I think you have a good opportunity. And okay, let's be real. Cuz also is about he's getting close to level 16. Not feeling too good about that one. But Dokdam, BDD, even Peter, he's too far forward. You need to start the fight with an early pick, but for that, you need to be the aggressor. And I think that in that engage we saw, if it's KT that is calling the shots, the Viego comp just doesn't hold up.
Yeah, I mean, you called it right before it happened, but Peter, the engage, the setup onto Faker, followed by the scatter of the week. Nice little opening for them. You have to be on the same page in these team fights. Both of these teams have indexed so heavily and found so much success because of their team fighting.
And I think pressure just continues to be on Guma, right? Had the Sivir game, they couldn't quite get it over the line. On Yunar, the strongest AD on the patch. Dokdam again. Learn from the previous game. Will not wander into the fog of war, whether it's Renekton or Sion. The lesson has been learned as Cuz has been caught out. Initial CC is good. Cuz getting bursted through with the flash over the wall keeps him standing. Peter trying to zone away. Ulti from Guma means they want to keep this fight going. Good scatter, but doesn't quite connect on Gumayusi critically. He's able to just free fire. KT forced backwards, but Faker now half HP.
Peter, what a psychopath. He went in instead. A lot of damage to come down, and KT, they're looking for the chase.
Cuz connecting the cleaver, still has access to the maximum dosage, zoning all of T1 away. Faker just barely able to make it out. TP is his. He can get back to this fight. And KT try to force the Baron.
Flip it. Faker can TP back in. A lot of cooldowns are gone, though. Look at the ultimates that aren't available for T1.
They have to be careful of moving into the choke, and they know it. Owner trying to approach from another side. The potential for BDD to line up a multi-man scatter for it to end the fight in a blink of an eye is massive, but once again, it's the flank that they're looking for. But it's Doran caught out! BDD unleashing his power! Cuz using the maximum dosage as KT start to push into Gumayusi. He's ultless, he's helpless, there's nothing he can do! Mundo pushing further and further into T1's back line!
KT are doing it! The stun from BDD right onto Renekton as he's trying to go through the wall. BDD stuns him as he dashes, and the reward might be Baron.
There is still the opportunity for a steal. Owner's there, he doesn't have his ultimate though. Flash about to come up. If they don't steal this, KT might set up for a soul point as well.
Teleport.
Coming in from BDD, well called. Potential 50-50. The Mundo damage, the auto carrier trying to zone. Peter on the way and wants to knock them out of the fight. The objective getting lower and lower, but off T1! Deleted! In the blink of an eye, KT take everything!
And the scatter from BDD will not let them pass! Dokdam lives! And that's Baron!
Listen to that crowd. Listen to that crowd. They are riding the roller coaster. KT with the advantage.
When we look back at this fight again, Doran caught out the scatter to deny his path over the wall.
And it's Peter even there on a really deep flank angle, and Faker on this Victor trying to make the flank work as they just don't have the tools to deal with this Mundo. He's just not taking any damage.
And then they know to start up the Baron. T1 to them. The desperate play from T1. They flash in, they try and burst down Dokdam, but the peel is there. Dokdam does not fall. And KT, they've got Baron, they've got a 4,000 gold lead. They also have the Otacon buff still in their favor.
And almost the entire year, T1 have dominated this KT lineup. But for what feels like the first time in countless years, it is KT who have T1 on the back foot. KT who once again have a gold lead. This time not from snowballing early, but fighting incredibly in the mid to late game.
And for this roster, with Dokdam, Peter, and Perfect all being subbed out at various different times of the year, for them to work back to this point, inspirational stuff. KT, can they do it?
We saw it in the previous game. T1 was almost able to find their way back. Guma doesn't have a third on him yet, though. That execution is not quite there. And trying to play a pick comp from behind is known to be an exercise in futility. Look at Perfect, he's not afraid.
T1 have to be careful. A single scatter connects, and it all could fall apart.
Cuz is almost level 16 here on the Mundo as well. That rank 3 ultimate is big.
Splinter's almost maxed out as well. That AP steroid, an additional 15%, as if BDD wasn't doing enough already. Only 3 away now. Level 16 for both mid laners. Keria with a good combo, Faker with a good ulti. You can see the path to T1 turning it, but it's just so hard to imagine Cuz dying to anything at this point in the game.
And the BDD, 3 items done. 10-stack Darkseal, slow and steady. As this bot lane inhib certain to fall, you see T1 as well. They're accepting it. Doran maybe trying to trade an inner and top. Cuz just getting a crab for his efforts, as now the 3 item spikes have been hit for Faker, for Owner, and for Guma.
Peter. KT waiting off to the side. T1 seeing opportunity. Doran continuing to push in the top lane. T1 want to just keep KT around, deny these resets, but there's no real major example. Faker caught out by Peter. Cuz on the way in, but nothing's going to come from it. Ulti goes from Faker, and Peter's just going to walk away. Again, no major objective, so it's not a big deal, but T1 have to be careful.
He'll use there by Peter. Doesn't want to go down, and T1, if they had a flank ward, if they had the bot lane turret taken down, maybe there's an opportunity, but that one is still standing 31 minutes in.
And during their defense, T1 are able to get the top side secondary tower for Doran in addition to the red buff, plus this outer tower as well. So a little bit of gold back in their favor, but KT, they stand just 2 minutes away from a Dragon Soul arrival. That fight will be critical.
Yeah, that's Cuz level 16, and that's a Cassante. That's
You didn't want to add anything?
Too much
you didn't
power.
Want to add anything? Just Cassante?
No. I did need to add more. You guys both know.
Yeah, refer to Showmaker.
Yeah.
For the rest of the description of that champion. And honestly, that is the immense tanky front line that KT have to their advantage. Those 2 champions that you mentioned, plus Peter's possible engages here with the Alistar that KT are going to try and use once they draw T1 over to the Dragon Soul fight.
And we keep repeating it because I think it's the only way, barring a colossal mistake from KT, that they win. They need to find a pick on BDD or Dokdom. These are your 2 main targets. BDD's flash will almost be up. BDD and his team also have the benefit of getting to choose. They can just play for Baron. They don't have to care about the Dragon, so it'll just be Soul Point. But with Guma approaching his 4th item, maybe this Yunara can do some magic. T1 have found themselves in deficits in a game like this. It was the 3 of us. JDG looked like they had them on the ropes, and they're found to come back as the TP comes in.
Even from behind, they want to catch out Perfect. Perfect can try and use Doran as an escape route. Keria has to be careful, but Pathmaker already used means that Perfect is in trouble. Q3 back through, using Keria now to escape. Perfect on his way out. It's not the Rek'Sai, but once again, it feels like he's going to escape. All of KT looking to collapse. Eyes on Faker and Doran as Perfect flashes out to safety. That's the ulti used by Guma. KT pulling back, keeping Perfect alive. Doran wants to make the difference. Cuz goes in! T1 making it happen. Guma fails the flash. It stops the fight from going through. Doran getting whittled down. And in the end, it's Cuz again who refuses to drop. Peter with the CC. I cannot believe it. KT holding on as T1 in the end might finally get to the moon. No!
Who comes out ahead? The scrap Faker trying to chase down the extra kill, but so is Cuz.
I think the time has worked out better for KT here. Look, the jungler for KT is up because he is unbothered. He's about to secure them that Chemtech Soul.
7-0 and 6. A back and forth fight. It felt like that. T1 magic was coming through.
All right. So they get the flash stun to get the burst damage on it, Chronicler. But this fight gets so scrappy as you see the carries that are still left up. Dokdom finishes off of Doran, but then Faker is able to get the shutdown.
But it's the deficit that they're in that makes that close. In a normal situation, that catch just ends it. BDD will get caught as the Baron is surely in the eyes of KT on the precipice of match point.
If those fights are coming down to that low of health bars, now with a Chemtech Soul, so difficult here for T1 to finish off kills this time around. Let's see the setup though. BDD throws the Scuttle Crab away. He knows it's a little bit dangerous at the moment.
Not a single flash available on the Rift. Any misstep could cost T1 the game. KT on the precipice of match point, but we've seen T1 not out of this yet, no matter how strong Cuz looks. All of T1, though, forced to retreat. Again, the power of this Chemtech with a K'Sante and a Mundo is a terrifying prospect for T1 to contend with.
T1, I think they need the Infinity Edge on Gumayusi. It's going to be really difficult for them to buy the time for him to actually get that because KT can just threaten this Baron. You keep the map dark, you threaten T1 constantly, don't allow Gumayusi any time to farm, to catch up.
They spot it now. Baron getting lower. T1 can't afford to let this get away from them. Peter just using the Hex Flash as all of T1 start to move in. Double Randuin's to slow the approach of T1 if they need. It might come down to the 50-50. Peter trying to spot Owner to force him out of the pit. No smite for either support, even with the Spellbook, as T1 getting forced backwards. Maximum dosage still there for Cuz, crucially. Picks up the canister. Guma really starting to hurt, but it's not enough damage.
Sterix is there. T1 taking a little bit too much poke. We'll see if KT actually want to pull the trigger on this or set up a bait. Eventually, T1's going to run out of the resources, but they do know with that ward.
Bot wave pushing in the favor of KT. Crucially, if T1 take a fight and lose, KT will immediately end the game. T1, the pressure point is on them. KT have baited them into the trap. Peter from the darkness finding Doran, but not the ideal carry as Guma and Faker are still untouched for now. Gravity field to lock them up. Maximum dosage. Cuz getting lower, but still living. The Mundo refusing to die, and Gumayusi drops. KT taking it across the finish line. Faker forced back. The bot lane open. The TP there for BDD. KT moving to match point.
The KT roller coaster keeps going up and up. We're still not done. KT about to go up match point in the Telecom War in the world's final.
Yes!
A story at this tournament of dominance when it started, and people doubted the quality of their opposition, and then they beat Gen G, and now they're taking T1 to match point. KT monstrous in Worlds 2025. Let's see what the AD has to say about it.
KT saying 1 is all you get, just like Gen G. We will take that match point, and they walk past the cup thinking we're gonna be back for it very, very soon. What an incredible game, and what an incredible roller coaster, I just have to say it, that we are on.
I mean, it's just incredible at Worlds for KT to be the team that's coming up big in these small moments, where it's usually T1 that are always rising to the occasion. To me, this game came down to a couple of small moments, mistakes and outplays, and it was KT making the big ones.
The magic of the World Championship is it gives the opportunity for players to shine. And for KT to perform like they are today is what we love to see at the World Championship. What a phenomenal performance. And I really want to dive into talking about these players.
I want to listen to Emily first. How are you doing?
I think the most, how am I doing? We'll leave that for later.
Okay.
I think the most important thing to me, though, is that it's not like KT have been flawless, right? They have made mistakes. It's more about how they then deal with it. How, like, especially like Peter makes a mistake on the Owlstar, then he ends up being super clutch in a later fight. I feel like every single person on KT has kind of taken turns really stepping up in a lot of places, and that has made a difference.
Yeah, their early games have been great overall, and we got to talk about this Mundo. We have to talk about it, right? I think it's become one of the most contentious and important picks in all of the World Championship.
I absolutely agree. I think it was a great pick in this game. Cuz played it excellently. You could see in the later stages, they just had no answer for it.
Yeah, they had no answer for it. And one thing I did want to point out, despite the fact that T1 did have the early lead in this specific game, we'd previously covered KT's early games, KT has been scrapping a lot early. That was the 100% warfare stat was the feat of warfare. And I love to see this coming out of KT, just that kind of aggression.
I do as well. And Azael, we were talking about it before, but this is the World Championship final. This is when people make the mistakes they usually wouldn't, and this is where people step up where you usually wouldn't expect it. And I gotta say, this last fight we're gonna see, where T1 could turn the game. Guma fails to flash. Maybe it looks different.
Yeah, no, it absolutely can be a series-deciding thing. I think it was a game-deciding play as we can watch this. Eyes on Gumayusi in this play. Faker got such a good chunk onto Docdom, and they committed a lot onto Perfect. Dorian decides, you know what, we're going to go for it. He flashes over the wall. They get this great engage. They do get the shutdown, but look at Guma here. Steps back, then tries the flash over the wall, doesn't get over, and as a result, he is out of the fight for such a long time. The ulti is expiring. Imagine if he is there with all these low health bars. T1 probably get that kill, probably take the dragon, and delay the soul.
The beauty of this fight is it showcases not only the resilience of T1, the fact that in these environments, they still constantly look for opportunities, constantly look for ways to flip the games, but the fact that KT weathers that pressure, and while it is in conjunction with key mistakes that we're seeing from T1, the fact that KT is able to find these opportunities and punish the mistakes is a testament to how well they've been playing.
It absolutely is, and teams haven't been able to do it for 3 years. How is it KT that's doing it, Emily?
I don't know. I mean, they haven't won yet. I'll just say KT's MO is to kind of bring you up to the point where you're like, okay, maybe they can do it, and then they just, you know.
That's
they
what you told me for the semis. That's what you told me for the quarters.
And it's what I'm telling you right now.
And they are getting closer and closer. You have to give them the credit. They're playing incredible.
I believe there's a lot of stats so that we have to look at, because Emily is saying that because there is such a long history of it not going the way of KT in those telecom wars specifically, right? And not just losses, often like a reverse sweep or pushing you out of Worlds contention. They all hurt so much.
Yeah, and speaking of resiliency, I don't think there is a team that's more resilient than SK Telecom, now T1, over the years, as we kind of see the Telecom War finals history, because it's the fourth time
they look rattled. I'm just gonna say it, some of them look rattled. It doesn't feel the way it did last year.
I mean, well, this is the thing, because I just can never count T1 out in these positions, because as you rightly said, they've been in this position many times before. Even at this World Championship against AL, they've been pushed to the brink, but T1 are 6-1 when down 1-2 at
Yeah,
Worlds.
but Mundo was up.
I mean,
Mundo is
no
gone.
secret Mundo for Oner this time around. But for me, like, Cuz has been such a superstar in this series, and I can't do anything more than sing his praises for how spectacular he's been.
I mean, no one can argue the history obviously is in T1's favor. They have won so many times in Telecom Wars. They've showed up in these big moments so many times, but it just feels different because KT does feel like they have the magic on their side this time around. It only has to happen once. The history doesn't matter.
No, you take them all. You don't care if you win the World Championship here, specifically for these players, right, Emily? And that's how I want to kind of go into this break and go into the next match for a player like Perfect, who everybody counted out, a player like Peter, who had a bad start and then completely turned it around. They are rising to the occasion.
Yeah, I think the tag of like Band of Misfits is very appropriate for this team, right? Like, no one expected them to do particularly well at Worlds. Like, I didn't think they were going to be incredibly bad, but I also definitely did not expect them to make it this far. And a lot of that was because of so many players we did not expect to be performing as well as they are. Perfect. I want to shout out Peter as well. Those two stepping up in this game. Also to get here has been fantastic.
They have it in the palm of their hand, but we saw someone on screen a second ago who's heard that phrase before uttered about his enemies, his nemesis on the other side. It is 1 and 2 down for T1, but you can never, ever count Faker out. I hope we're going to a game 5, but maybe KT just do it.
They'll have to earn it.
Play as Faker tries to zone away. KT, it's Peter in the clutch. Scatter the fall, but the fall damage is not there. Exhausted is Faker, and Carrier tries to turn it back, but he's all by his lonesome. Doran cannot get into the back line. KT managed to find the initial kill. It's perfect. Pop off. Guma missing completely. They get the Drake, but it might cost T1 everything.
He flashes into the wall, and that might be the Otacon going over to KT.
Cuz continuing to go where he damn well pleases. T1 forced back.
Hey players, you know a lot of you have been asking about the winter map and why we haven't been able to do it, and I'll tell you, it's really difficult. Our tech and tools need some work. Hand painting everything in the map itself is a lot of effort, and not to mention there's gameplay clarity. And can we just talk about how even though it's winter in the northern hemisphere, in the southern hemisphere it's summer? And isn't that where Medler's from? He's from New Zealand, right? So I don't know if we're gonna be able to pull it off. But you know what? Because you really asked for it, we're just gonna do it anyways. Winter map is coming back, everyone. Winter 2025 and summer 2025 somewhere else. It's winter everywhere on Summoner's Rift.